introduce CDPQ a little to give you guys an idea for those of you who don't know it, or for maybe those of you who don't know our mission and our mandate within the ecosystem here. Then maybe I'll just share a bit of a personal story, how I ended up here, and then what I'm learning from the experiences by being in VC, by working in startup companies, and by just being in the ecosystem in general. So I should start by just telling you a bit about Caisse de dépôt. We're a $270 billion fund. We manage the pension for the employees of the Quebec government, which is, massive. At this stage, it doesn't always make sense for that big a fund to invest in small venture capital. But what the reason we're doing it is because it makes sense from an ecosystem perspective. So Caisse de dépôt, managing the pension for the employees of the government, we also have a mandate to support the economy of the province. And then we see that it makes a lot of sense to support the ecosystem that's around it. So all the startups that one day become massive companies, they had to start somewhere. And to make sure we do help those companies, then we recently, about 2 years ago, developed a strategy that's about threefold to support the ecosystem. The first part is by being a fund of funds. So we're going to go out to Teralis, we're going to go out to Alan from Real Ventures as well, and we're going to commit capital to them as an LP. So we're going to go up to them, we'll say, okay, you're raising $100 million right now, we'll commit 15 million to that. And that's one way in which we can help them help the ecosystem. And then what happens is once these funds, they invest in companies, and the companies within these funds raise a certain size that's too big for them to keep investing or to lead the next round, they're going to come to us and say, okay, listen, Caisse de dépôt, you have a lot of capital, you're willing to deploy. Would you be interested to invest in this one company that's raising a Series C kind of thing? So our mandate, fund of funds, co-investments with our funds, which is going to range from $5 to $50 million. And a last initiative that we started recently, it's called Espace CDPQ, so some of you might have heard about it. We're actually open new office space at Place Ville-Marie, which we're renting out to some of Montreal VC funds. So we're trying to create a little Sandhill Road of Montreal just to get people together, to get people talking, to create synergies, because something that you're going to see, and I'm sure everyone else is going to agree on, is that a lot of JIT's job is a relationship job. So we need to talk to people, we need to know people, we need to keep those relationships going. So that's why we're trying to really foster collaboration in the ecosystem by opening these offices. And with that office also comes a $50 million envelope to finance smaller companies which aren't necessarily VC plays. It's really more innovation companies with $3 to $10 million in revenues and a growth trajectory that's not necessarily hockey stick, but still nice growth, international exports and stuff like this. So that's pretty much where CDPQ stands within the ecosystem. And we're really happy to support the ecosystem and to see how it's been growing so far. I think Thomas is going to touch on that later, but good growth, good prospects, so we're happy to see that. In terms of how I ended up at CDPQ, well, I did my bachelor's in finance at McGill. I then wasn't too sure about what I wanted to do. So I just got an offer at PSP Investments, which is the equivalent of CDPQ, but for the government of Canada. Started doing private equity with these guys. It was a great learning experience, but I realized after, maybe 6 to 12 months, I realized it wasn't really for me just in terms of passion. I was making great money. It could have been that kind of stuff that I would have said, okay, I'll just stay here. I'll make great money. I'll just keep doing what I do, and then, good pension, everything. But then, in my spare time when I was bored, I was reading news about technology, so that kind of rings a bell that, okay, maybe there's something else I'd like to do. I also come from a family of entrepreneurs, so I've always had that spirit to be close to those companies that are just hustling, and that have all of this potential. So one day I got a call from a headhunter for a position in a VC fund, which I didn't get, but that person that was managing that fund eventually gave my resume to my current boss here at CDPQ. So, you never know who you're going to talk to, what you're going to do that's going to get you and where it's going to get you. But I got the call from CDPQ telling me, listen, we're a similar institution, it would be an easy transition for you, and you'd be doing venture capital, you'd be investing in cool tech companies. And for me, that was a no-brainer, right? That was like, okay, I'm jumping on board. And ever since, I've been really happy. So I've been working in each of the 3 strategies that I've told you about. So I've done funds. I think I've done about 6 engagement at this point. I've also done 3 direct transactions, working on a 4th one, which is a follow-up investment, and I'm working, as Eleanor said, I'm working right now at Hopper. So that's one of the really cool things about working at CDPQ right now, is that they have enough resources to allow me to do my work here, and also, send me off to learn at Hopper, and which is, I think, amazing. What happened is that when you do, direct investments, when you do work with a company, you get really close to the people, because as I said, it's a relationship business just as much as it's, knowing the technical side. So I got really close to the Hopper team, and then I told my boss, I'm like, listen, if I'm gonna learn and if I'm gonna go work anywhere, I want it to be that company. So then I had to push a little, but the idea made sense. So now I'm working as Hopper 1 day a week, plus evenings and weekends every now and then, which is normal. If you're going to do venture capital, you can't be afraid of working overtime every now and then. And I'm project manager for starting kind of my own little business within Hopper. We'll see how that pans out, but I get great support from the team, from the CEO, and it's a great learning experience for me as like starting my own business, seeing what hurdles I have to go through, and what metrics I need to keep track of to see if I'm successful or not. So all of these things, I think for me is just I couldn't be happier to be where I am right now. And yeah, so in terms of hours, it's I'm joking about it, but just to give you an idea, and I'm sure you all seem like hard workers. Just like, sorry, I'm tying back up with what I said, like, it's a lot of hours, but if you find what you love, like, it's not gonna matter, right? Like, Eleanor is the same, Thomas is the same as well. Like, I know they work crazy hours, but we all love what we're doing, so for us, it's kind of a no-brainer. And maybe just in terms of, lessons learned, there's a classic, don't fall in love with a company. When I first joined CDPQ, literally every meeting I would go to, after my boss, I was like, let's go, let's invest, let's go, let's sign a check, Yeah, exactly, that's the one, next Uber. So it's not always like that. And you end up learning, and it's like, don't fall in love with a company, but also don't fall in love with a product or a manager, because a company is a mix of different things, and you do need to make sure that you have all the right elements. And then, another thing that I learned before I joined CDPQ was afraid as hell to network, to talk to people I didn't know. I didn't know how to like break the ice or just go and talk to them. And what I realized is that at the end of the day, like you talk to someone, and the person that breaks the ice, the other person is going to be just as happy to carry the conversation. Like everyone's interested to talk about their story. Everyone's interested to answer questions and discuss whatever industry they're in. So if anyone of you is shy to network or just to cold call anyone, I'd really encourage you to like get over that initial shyness and just do it. For example, what I do, I have a few friends from McGill that are in California now, live in San Francisco. I go and visit them, every now and then what I do is I go and I leave here on a Wednesday night. So I have 2 business days that I'm in California, and then I reach out to, McGill alumni, and I'm like, hey, you want to go for a beer? And I go, no. And most of the time, people are going to be super receptive to that, especially if you come from the same community. And thanks to those relationships, not only am I getting insight from people that work within the companies and know the industries that I'm investing in, but I'm also meeting other investors. For example, can't really name the company, but investor for one of the largest tech funds in the US, and they got interested in Hopper, and I got a message from them, and I made an introduction and got a message from them this week saying, we're interested to lead the next round in Hopper, like keep me close to that company, So those relationships that you're building might seem trivial at first, but it's going to be worth $1 million later, and I promise that. And if anything, you'll just have a friendship or an awkward meeting. Like it's going to be an awkward 15 minutes, and then you move on with your life, And last thing I think I learned, and that's because I get to be at CDPQ, so I get to touch a bit of everything. Doing funds of funds has been really interesting. I'm more of a, I get more excited about the company's side. As I said, like it's the tech, it's the potential to, to go through the stars and just have this amazing company. But a decision you also need to make is at what stage do you want to invest, right? You can invest early stage, later stage. It has its upsides and downsides on each end of the spectrum. For me, I've learned that I'm more of a later stage guy, so Series C is where I feel a bit more comfortable. Being earlier, I think it's more about the relationship with the person that you're going to build and like investing in their idea. But you also have a bit more of rolling up your sleeve to do. Whereas later stage, there's the company's a little bit more structured. So there's the CFO and all these things, and it's really just about how you see yourself dealing with the companies and what kind of work you want to do. So I think what you're doing is amazing. I know you guys are super early, and
I have no choice at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're stuck. You're stuck. And I think there's a bit for everything, right? Alan is doing super early stuff as well, and it's super interesting. For me, it's just I think I've found the spot where I'm most comfortable, and I was lucky enough to touch a bit of everything, so that's why I found it. So yeah, that's about it.
Maybe you just want to stay up
Yep.
just for a few questions. We have
Of
maybe
course.
like 5 minutes for short Q&As. Someone want to start? I'll break the ice then. It's
There
the
you go.
first one, so.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, like we've talked a lot about, or thought a lot about how, as a VC, we need to, what metrics should we look like in
Yeah.
to invest in a startup? Can you talk about that for more the LP relationship? What are the things they look for when they meet with a VC?
As an LP investing in a GP?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so a lot of it is about past experience. It's there's going to be different type of GPs out there. There's the real ventures and the tailors that have already raised funds, have already had successful companies within them. I'm thinking about Breeder or other companies like that. So most of it is really just believing in either their track record as a fund investor, that they've done it before, or their track record as personal managers. Because sometimes you're going to invest in funds, it's the first time that they're doing this. So you have to think, okay, are these partners going to work well together? Have they worked well together in the past? Is the experience that they have, is it applicable to the type of companies they say they're going to invest in as well right now? And then, there's obviously looking at the sector and the strategy they want to invest in, but at that point, it's rare that someone's going to come and tell you, oh, listen, I want to invest in like print newspapers, right? Like most of the time it's going to be like AI and all the trendy things. So track record, I think, and experience background is really definitely the most important one. Cool. Yeah.
So everyone, and this might kind of showcase my ignorance a bit, but so you mentioned you're more interested in like later stage investment, and then one of the readings we did talked about like it can get like Series E, which is like fifth round. So it seems to me like at what point does it stop being like venture capital and shift more to private equity, like?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, and it's not ignorant at all because that line I think is very blurry. I think, in my opinion, venture capital is just it's mostly about the valuation of just saying you're still investing in potential as opposed to private equity, which would be mostly they have those stable revenues that are growing X percentage, maybe like up to 20-30% max per year, whereas venture capital, is going to be more like 50-100% per year, right? So it's going to be early stage. I'd say when you reached 150 million-ish or more, that point it gets close to PE. But I mean, if you think at an Uber, is it PE or is it still VC? Like at that point, it's just words, right? It's really how you look at the return and how you want to think about it. But for me, investing in later stage is where you still have that that curve where you can still hit, and grow like crazy. So Hopper was an investment like that, right? We invested at a pricey valuation, but it can still go much higher. Whereas if you invest in Uber, you don't think it's going to be worth 120 billion, within 2 years. It's not going to double or triple its valuation like overnight, right? So that's kind of my later stage definition for that. But PE versus VC, that's more of a blurry line.
Well, thanks a lot. Perfect timing. Love it.
There you go. Awesome.